Hi guys, it's me, HD, and welcome to the qualifying watch along for qualifying here in Baku. Great to see you guys here for what is going to be an exciting qualifying session. Maybe not the most exciting of the season, but there are some very interesting stories coming from practice so far this weekend. And it's going to be definitely a competitive qualifying session in the fight for pole position and the fight for best of the rest in the midfield and just all of the midfield positions in general. And hopefully with me today you will join me in watching along the qualifying session and enjoying the session with me. If you can't watch the session though, but you can listen to my stream, then don't worry, I'll keep you up to date with everything that goes on. And yeah, by the way, the reason this stream started 15 minutes late is because I didn't actually know until like 2 or 3 minutes before 2:30 my time, UK time, which was about, 20 minutes ago. I didn't actually know that the session was delayed 15 minutes because practice 3 was delayed 15 minutes. So that's why there was a delay to this stream of 15 minutes. And for anyone who's wondering, yes, qualifying starts at 1:15, 3:15 p.m. UK time, and obviously 6:15 local time in Baku. So yeah, that's what the official start time is. And yeah, we should definitely be getting going on time. Hopefully the qualifying session is, not one of those qualifying sessions we've had kind of in the last couple of years here in Baku, where there's, lots of red flags and it goes on for twice as long. Hopefully that's not the case, especially considering that it is taking place in like early evening, this qualifying session in Baku. So if it does go on that long, it might get very dark. So let's hope it doesn't go on that long. But yeah, hopefully a good qualifying session awaits us. And I'm sure it will be another exciting qualifying session this season. Maybe, like I said, maybe not as exciting as others this season, but it's going to be another good, interesting fight, as we've had all season long, really, in qualifying sessions throughout the field. Now, if you did miss practice 3, of course I did a watch along for that, but if you missed practice 3, let me now just take you through the results of that. So in practice 3, Sergio Perez ended up first. He has topped 2 of the 3 practice sessions this weekend. Maybe that's an omen that he is the man to beat, even though I think Charles Leclerc is probably the man to beat in qualifying today. And Leclerc was in second, only, 3/4 of a tenth behind Perez. And then Verstappen finished up in third. Carlos Sainz finished up in P4. And then the rest of the top 10 was Norris in 5th, Ricciardo in 6th, Gasly 7th, Russell 8th, and then Ocon 9th and Vettel in 10th. And then the rest of the field, it was Alonso, Hamilton, Stroll, Zhou, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Albon, Schumacher, Bottas, and Latifi. Now, before I get onto some pictures of the cars from this weekend, I do need to get into something quickly, which is the lap times in practice 3, because some of them are representative of what, the paces for certain teams, and some of them in practice 3 were not, because some of the teams were actually slower in practice 3 than they went in practice 2 yesterday. Now, of course, practice 2 conditions are cooler, so the tyres aren't, wearing out as quickly towards the end of the lap on their flying laps. But you would expect around Baku practice 3 times to be, quicker than practice 2 times for pretty much everybody, but that wasn't the case. Charles Leclerc, for example, set pretty much the exact same lap time he set in practice 2 in practice 3. So Leclerc can definitely go quicker. And, well, can Carlos Sainz really go quicker? Or could he have gone quicker in practice 3? Not sure he could have. But Red Bull definitely a slight improvement of what they did. But I do get the feeling that Leclerc has a lot more to show than what he showed in practice, which is why I say he is, for me, still the favourite for pole position. And then McLaren showed a lot more pace than they did on Friday and were about a second quicker by the looks of it compared to Friday, and then Gasly in the AlphaTauri was kind of around the pace he was doing in practice 2, if not slightly slower, so you'll probably see some more pace from him. Russell as well, probably slightly slower than what he did in practice 2. Esteban Ocon, I think that's a better time he did, 44.6 than what he did in practice 2. Same for Vettel. But the big one to look out for, especially in the midfield, is Fernando Alonso. Because Fernando Alonso in practice 2 yesterday, did a 1:44.1 or around that lap time. But in practice 3, did a 44.8. So I think there's definitely a lot more pace in the Alpine than that of Fernando Alonso. Plus, in the speed traps, Alonso is the man, and the Alpine car is the absolute best in the final sector. There is no doubt about that so far this weekend. It's an absolute monster in a straight line. Renault Power Unit also, doing pretty well. It's not just down to, the little drag on their car or the smaller rear wing. But yeah, an absolute monster of a car that Alpine is in a straight line. But in terms of the midfield, I mean, McLaren look better, but I still think AlphaTauri, Mercedes, and Alpine can probably go a bit quicker in qualifying than what they showed in practice 3, and probably in practice 3 could have gone a bit quicker if they really wanted to, I reckon. So I know McLaren finished up in 5th and 6th, but I don't think that is representative of where they actually are. I think they could get into the top 10 with Norris in 9th or 10th place. That is possible. But I don't think McLaren are the 3rd quickest team, because I just don't think that car suits this track that well, and I don't think Alpine and Mercedes will be as slow as they were in practice 3. I don't think they'll be as slow as that in qualifying. So yeah, I think they'll definitely be stronger, and I think there'll definitely be a bit of a change to practice, or to what we saw in practice 3, especially in the midfield and maybe at the top as well. But I'll cut to these pictures of the cars from the weekend so far. So we've got just over 20 minutes to go until qualifying begins in Baku. By the way, in the live chat, make sure to post comments regarding qualifying and what do you think will happen. Let me know in the live chat, what are your top 5 or even top 10 predictions for qualifying today? Like I said, let me know in the live chat, and I'll make sure to read out as many as I can, probably in the final few minutes before we get going in qualifying here. So yeah, make sure to keep posting in chat your predictions and what you think in general is going to happen in qualifying, as there is some work going on by the looks of it to George Russell's Mercedes car. It doesn't look quite ready yet, that car, but maybe they'll be able to quickly get it together. Hopefully they will, even though Mercedes aren't that quick this weekend. But yeah, we'll start with the top teams. Ferrari, I still think, have the best qualifying car. Charles Leclerc definitely could have gone quicker in practice 3. Was held up, I think, on one of his final attempts in practice 3. So, like I said, he could have gone definitely quicker than he did. And also, on his best lap, sector 3, that he did was not a personal best, so he could definitely go quicker with the lap that definitely go quicker than the lap he actually did. So I still think Charles Leclerc is the favourite for pole, and if I want to put money on anyone, I would put it on Charles Leclerc for Ferrari. But Red Bull are definitely close. They are close to the Ferrari team. Even if Leclerc gets pole, it's not going to be by a massive margin. It might only be by 1/10 of a second at most. But I think, like I said, I think Leclerc will have enough in hand throughout the entire lap, especially in the middle sector, where the Ferrari is supremely quick, to be the fastest car / driver with Leclerc this qualifying session. But Red Bull definitely look closer than they did in practice 2, which is not a surprise, because Red Bull do tend to sandbag, I think, a bit more on a Friday than they do, obviously, on a Saturday when it really matters. So Red Bull, I think, will probably end up second and third on the grid. Carlos Sainz doesn't seem as though he's able really to challenge any of the top three. This is not really a strong circuit for him, so I just don't see how Carlos Sainz is really going to get that great of a result for the team. And the only way really he's going to finish on the podium even tomorrow is if something bad happens to one of the top three that loses them a lot of time. So yeah, I think second and third for Red Bull is what they'll most likely get. And to be honest, for the race, that's not necessarily a bad result for them. A a second and a third place. That's not necessarily a bad result for the Red Bull team, because I think Red Bull will have the quicker race car, and I think they will, especially if they can, be about a second to a second and a half behind Ferrari, the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. If Leclerc does turn out to get pole, they can be within a second and a half of him. They'll be able to pull themselves along and pull themselves closer, even without DRS, because of the incredible straight line speed that Red Bull has, with their their incredible low drag setup that their car has for every single Grand Prix. Just it's the way the car is. And yeah, if they had DRS enabled as well, that means they'll be very, very strong and hard to keep behind. So yeah, if they get second and third, Red Bull, I don't think that's necessarily a bad result. I don't think you could sit there and say, they've missed a big opportunity, because I think they can easily still win the race tomorrow. But definitely, it will be, because obviously Leclerc got pole last year, and then both Red Bulls passed him in the first, I think, 10 laps or so quite easily. It won't be that easy for Red Bull tomorrow if they are behind Leclerc on the grid. It's going to be a bit harder than that. But I still think Red Bull, even if they don't get pole, I still think they're in a very good position for tomorrow's Grand Prix. Yeah, for qualifying, I think you'll probably see Leclerc on pole, and then probably Perez second, Verstappen third, Sainz fourth. And then when it comes to the midfield teams, I still think Mercedes are going to have the best car from the midfield pack. I think Russell will probably be in fifth. Russell does have a decent record around Baku. He did win here in F2 in 2018. Every other race here for him, he's been, miles off the pace because he's been in a Williams. So, yeah, I think with Russell, I think he'll be very quick. Lewis Hamilton, though, doesn't seem to be that competitive. I'm just going to make sure, by the way, before I talk about anything else, I'm going to quickly make sure that the session is actually starting at 15 minutes later than scheduled, and it is, because the F1 intro on the TV broadcast has already started playing, and I was just making sure that they haven't decided to start the session on time, because, I don't want to get, obviously, caught out by that. But, yeah, I still expect Mercedes to have the best car overall in qualifying. It will be close, though, between, say, Russell, Hamilton, obviously the two Mercedes drivers, and then Gasly, Alonso, maybe Ocon as well. It's going to be close. Mercedes don't have an easy third row lockout on the cards here. They absolutely do not have that in hand. But yeah, I think Mercedes most likely will be the third quickest team. And then I think the fourth quickest team, very close to Mercedes, will be Alpine. The reason I think Mercedes will be quicker than Alpine is because Alpine really only have a pace advantage over Mercedes by the looks of it in that final sector. Which, I mean, if they do outqualify the Mercedes today, that will be the sector that does it for them. But I don't think they have enough speed, Alpine, in Sector 1 and Sector 2 compared to Mercedes to be able to, to comfortably outqualify them on the grid. So that's why I think Mercedes will be the third quickest team today, and then Alpine just behind in fourth. But watch out for them, because they could definitely cause a surprise. And, Alonso could finish up in fifth place. There is no doubt about, his ability to do that. He can definitely do that in this qualifying session. And then after Mercedes and Alpine, AlphaTauri, like I said, they'll be in there, but I think they'll probably be the 5th quickest team at best. I don't think they're as strong as Alpine and Mercedes around this track, but they're still going to be in there with Gasly, who's pretty competitive around Baku and has had good success here. And then after that, you've got probably a 3-way fight for the between 11th and 16th between McLaren. Or maybe not 11th and 16th, but say 10th and 16th, because Yuki Tsunoda's pace for AlphaTauri has dropped off a bit. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a 3-way fight from, say, 10th to 16th place, probably, or 15th place, between McLaren, Alfa Romeo, and Aston Martin. Looks to be that McLaren have just about the edge over Aston Martin this weekend on pace, and then it's Aston Martin close behind. Sebastian Vettel, by the way, looking pretty competitive in the Aston Martin. And then Alfa Romeo, very disappointing this weekend. They've been probably the 8th quickest team out of the 10. That is quite terrible compared to where they were 3 weeks ago in Barcelona, where you could argue they were the, at the very least, the 4th quickest team. Yeah, very disappointing there for Alfa Romeo, but that's where they are this weekend. I don't see them really showing a dramatic turn of pace, I'm afraid. So, yeah, that's what I expect to happen in the lower bits of the midfield. And then it looks as though Haas F1 are probably going to be contenders to be knocked out in Q1, especially Mick Schumacher, who seems to be very, very slow this weekend, which obviously does not help his cause. Hopefully, he doesn't have a big accident, because if he does, then his team is going to get very, very angry with him, and it's going to affect the relationship between him and his team. So, hopefully, that doesn't happen for him. But, yeah, Haas, not really that quick anyway, so even if Mick was to beat K-Mag this weekend, it's not really going to mean that much, because the pace of the Haas car is pretty terrible. And in fact, after practice 2, K-Mag made the point. He came out and said that, normally in practice 2 we're better than we are in practice 1, and it was the other way around. So, they didn't quite know why that was. So, going into, as Mercedes are doing a lot of work on the George Russell's car, but there's no issue for Russell there. Yeah, he basically then after that said, you never know what can happen on Sunday. We might score some points because, of craziness happening, which can happen in Baku. Which is basically an admittance that they've got a very slow car. When you're making comments like that on a Friday, then like I said, it's basically an admittance that your car's not that quick and you need to hope for some retirements and probably a couple safety cars. But yeah, Haas are probably the 2nd slowest team, and obviously Williams are at the very back. But about 11 minutes to go now until qualifying begins. Guys, let me know in the live chat, who do you think is getting pole position today and finishing 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th? And if you want to let me know what you think your predicted top 10 is going to be, let me know right now in the live chat. And like I said, I will read out your comments before we get to qualifying itself. Just want to say though, for anyone new watching, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, because I'll be live later tonight to preview tomorrow's Grand Prix at 8 PM UK time, which is in 5 hours from now. I'll be live for that. So yeah, don't forget to join me for that. And then I'll be live tomorrow at 11:30 AM UK time, 30 minutes before the race starts, for the race watch-along for the 2022 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And then about 45 minutes after the race finishes, I'll be live with a race reaction stream. So that's what's coming your way between now and, just after the Grand Prix tomorrow finishes. So don't forget to subscribe by clicking subscribe at the bottom right of the screen. And as well, don't forget to smash the like button, share this video and channel everywhere you can. And as well, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5. But, I'll read out a couple predictions before we get going, and also comments in chat. Let's get to this one, this prediction from Astro Stevo, who says his top 10 predictions is Leclerc on pole, Sainz second, Perez third, Hamilton fourth, Russell fifth, Norris sixth, Ricciardo seventh, Alonso 8th, Bottas 9th, and Verstappen 10th, and for Verstappen to crash in Q3. Ambitious, but you never know. Could happen. Let's find some other ones here if I can. Hey Chaz, you do a Fernando Alonso versus Lewis Hamilton in F1. Who is the better driver? Or can you do one? I think I have done one, haven't I? Because I used to do them, didn't I, back in 2019? I know I did Verstappen, Leclerc, Hamilton, Schumacher, Alonso, Vettel, and Hamilton, Vettel. Did I do Hamilton, Alonso? I can't remember. To be honest, I'm not sure I would do that because I think it'd be pretty one-sided. I mean, Fernando's a great driver, don't get me wrong, but Lewis Hamilton, for me, is the greatest of all time. So, it would only be fair to compare Lewis Hamilton to the other, the other greats like Senna and Schumacher, and then maybe compare Lewis to, to Max, because obviously Max has got a very long career ahead of him, and Max does have the potential in terms of talent to accomplish, 5 or more world championships. So, yeah, I'm not sure I would do a comparison video like that, but I am going to actually bring that back, that video series that I was doing. I am going to bring that back probably. There is a chance that it will come back in the summer break, but it will definitely be back by the end of the year. Because there is one comparison that I want to redo before the year ends, and most likely just after the season is finished. So, yeah, I will be bringing it back. Could Hamilton, Alonso, and Vettel be battling in the midfield tomorrow? Asks Paul James Scribbs. Well, yeah. I mean, they're definitely midfield for this weekend, unfortunately. Margin Fly, I think it is. If I mispronounced that, apologies. Says that they think it'll be Perez, Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell for the top 5 on the grid. And yeah, Bravum Oz gives their prediction of Leclerc to get pole, Max second, Perez third, Sainz 4th, and Alonso in 5th. Like I said, guys, keep your predictions coming in the live chat, and I'll make sure to read out any new ones in the next few minutes or so. But I just want to quickly, before we get on to qualifying, get into a couple stats regarding the top teams coming into qualifying. So for Ferrari, Charles Leclerc has taken pole position in Baku once, and that was from last year in 2021. Plus also, 2019 probably should have got pole that day on pace if he wasn't, crashing into the castle section in that particular year. So yeah, Leclerc, one to watch out for sure in qualifying, of course, considering what he's done in qualifying this year with, is it 5 pole positions, I think, this year? Yeah, it is. So yeah, definitely watch out for Charles Leclerc today. And Ferrari have a decent record in Baku when it comes to pole position. 2 pole positions for them. Like I said, 2021 last year was Charles Leclerc, and the other one was Sebastian Vettel in 2018. But both times, of course, they failed to get the win. And in both of those races, the driver on pole for Ferrari, both times, failed to even get on the podium. So hopefully it goes better for them tomorrow if they do get pole position. For Red Bull, they have never taken pole position in a Grand Prix in Baku. So if they get that today, it is a first, and a very important first for them to keep up this momentum they've had in the last few races. And for Max Verstappen, his best qualifying position ever in Baku is only 3rd from 2021. this is not a good track for Max Verstappen. He's never finished on the podium here in a Grand Prix either. So it's not, like I said, a Verstappen track. But for Sergio Perez, it is. For Sergio Perez, he has been always very competitive here. Qualified second here in 2016 for Force India, but had a grid penalty, which is why he didn't start second. Also qualified in the top 10 here in 2017, 18 and 19 for Force India and Racing Point respectively. And of course, he won last year's Azerbaijan Grand Prix. So Sergio Perez, definitely one to look out for. And even though Mercedes are not that competitive, we have to say, they do have very good history here in Baku. They've taken the most pole positions in Baku of 3. Lewis Hamilton has 1 pole position in Baku from 2017. Other than that, though, and his win in 2018, it's not a great track for him, so it's not really a surprise that he's not on, great pace so far this weekend. The other pole positions for Mercedes, by the way, was Valtteri Bottas in 2019 and Nico Rosberg, of course, the first year we came here in 2016. But even though they're a midfield team, they do have good history here, and they are the most successful team at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. So, from their perspective, they'll hope to win their own battle, which is to be best of the rest, because there is absolutely no chance they'll be competing with Ferrari and Red Bull. And last thing before we get into the session itself, let's get into the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship standings. A reminder going into this session of who needs a really good session and who has a bit of breathing space. So Max Verstappen is leading the Drivers' Championship by 9 points. Leclerc is second. Of course, Leclerc and Ferrari really in the championship fight. They need to win really this weekend to bounce back, because if they keep letting Red Bull win race after race, Ferrari are just going to fall away and lose the championship way before the season is over. Sergio Perez is third, only 15 points behind Max Verstappen, and if he can outqualify Verstappen and get pole, then most likely, considering the pace of Leclerc and Verstappen compared to Perez, then Perez might be able to be less than 10 points away, or even like 5 or 6 points away from Max at the end of this weekend if he was to get pole and then turn that into a race win. George Russell is fourth in the championship. Carlos Sainz is fifth. Sainz really needs to try and get a podium this weekend to, keep up what he did in Monaco. And then Lewis Hamilton is sixth. Lando Norris is seventh. Bottas eighth. Ocon ninth. And Kevin Magnussen in 10th. I think Magnussen, though, might struggle to keep that 10th place in the championship after this weekend. And in the Constructors' Championship, Red Bull lead by 36 points over Ferrari. Mercedes are third, and they're going to finish third because they're way too far behind the teams ahead of them and way too far ahead of the teams behind. McLaren are fourth. They need a decent result this weekend, really, to keep ahead decently ahead of Alfa Romeo and Alpine, who are very close to each other in 5th and 6th. And Alpine, given the pace of their car this weekend, should probably go up to 5th in the championship after this weekend's Grand Prix. Then it's AlphaTauri 7th, Haas 8th, Aston Martin 9th, and Williams in 10th. And there you go, guys. That is your breakdown before qualifying begins. The qualifying is literally about to begin. So let me get my graphics ready. Probably won't be able to sync the timer up on time. No, so I'm gonna have to do it probably at the 14 or not the 14, the 17 minute mark. So it is Q1. Of course, we are about to begin, and Q1, as F1 is, by the way, piling up on the exit of the pit lane. Q1, of course, is an 18-minute long session. And the order, by the way, on the left-hand side of your screen is the final finishing order from practice, from practice 3. So that's why it is in that order. As qualifying about to begin momentarily here. As all the cars pretty much are waiting at the exit of the pit lane. And I'll let you know when it officially begins. And I think the first car on track will be a McLaren of, not sure who it is. Yeah, pretty much all the cars waiting to get out. And still the red light on the exit of the pit lane. And should really be starting now. Because it's now 1 minute past, and there you go. And I think I've got it synced up on time just about. If I haven't, no, I haven't. I'm about 2 seconds behind. So let me redo that at the 17-minute mark. But guys, qualifying is underway. Let me get that dotted line out as well, obviously. Illustrate where the cutoff zone is. So hold on, I'll try increase it a bit in size. So anyone below that dotted line on the left hand side of the screen is still not actually that big, unfortunately. As let me just sync the timer up. No one has set a time so far, so don't worry about that. You're not missing anything at the moment. And there you go. So 17 minutes to go in Q1. But yeah, anyone below that dotted line you can see on the running order on the left-hand side. Anyone below that dotted line at the end of Q1 when the timer is up and Q1 session is finished, will be out of qualifying and we'll have to start obviously from those positions. I think you guys know that by now. And yeah, cars on track. And the first car at the head of the pack is Lando Norris. And yeah, Norris 5th he was in practice 3. And if he was to get that here, that would be a massive step up for McLaren. Because I don't think they expected to be as competitive as that coming into this weekend. But I still don't think they'll have quite that pace. As Lewis Hamilton on Team Radio is saying, my brake pedal is really soft. There's a lot of work going on to those Mercedes cars between practice 3 and qualifying, so I hope nothing's gone wrong there. Anyway, Lando Norris is the first man to begin a qualifying lap. He now comes into turn 1 and looks fine through there. Remember, he did what, 144.1, 144.2, I think it was, around that in practice 3. So remember that when it comes to the lap times here in Q1. As a load of people now begin their flying laps. And yeah, Norris's lap so far pretty good. And in the middle sector, this McLaren car is really good compared to the midfield. It's just in the final sector horribly slow, or at least that's what we saw in practice 2 yesterday. It was the worst and slowest team in that final sector by an absolute million miles. But in sector 1 and sector 2, Norris was quick enough to probably put himself, possibly up in like 5th place. So McLaren aren't far away from being, the 3rd quickest team in F1. Just need to sort out that excessive loss of straight line speed. As Norris is now coming down to turn 15. And the lap so far, got to say, looks pretty good from the Brit. And now into turn 16. And purple middle sector, quicker than Alonso in the middle sector, which is pretty good for him. But it's this final sector that McLaren aren't so great. Let's see what he does for his first lap time. And it will be Lando Norris going P1 with a 1 minute 45.0. That's about, just under a second off what he did in practice 3. Alonso goes 0.3 of a second quicker, as there's a yellow flag in Sector 1 briefly. Maybe someone ran wide. Esteban Ocon is up to first. Fernando Alonso is second, or he was second. Now Daniel Ricciardo goes second, ahead of his teammate Norris for a change. Now Kevin Magnussen goes second, but I do have to stress these lap times from the midfield so far is not exactly as quick as they can go. So Magnussen up to second. Now Sebastian Vettel goes up to P2. Sergio Perez now goes quickest on a 1:43.1. Verstappen now goes quickest on a 1:42.9. That's the quickest time for Verstappen. That's the quickest time we've seen from anyone this weekend. Already into the 1 minute 42s. I still think in Q3 we'll see a 1 minute 41 for pole. But yeah, it's currently Verstappen from Perez. And now Carlos Sainz is up to third in the Ferrari. And Sainz is almost a second slower than Verstappen. And Leclerc now comes to line. Where does he go? He goes third, but 0.3 of a second down on Verstappen. So good first run there by Verstappen. So it's Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Sainz. And then, hold on, they're just showing a replay of something. I'll get to the rest of the order in a moment. And a couple cars blocking each other or having trouble. As someone's saying Verstappen is driving in an erratic manner. That's Russell saying that. I think Russell wanted to overtake Verstappen into turn 16 to start his lap. And then Max, I think, blocked him off. I'll have to see another replay of that really to form a decent opinion on that. But it's Ocon in 5th, Vettel 6th, Yuki Tsunoda is 7th, and then you've got Lewis Hamilton up in 8th place. Zhou Guanyu is in 9th, Magnussen 10th, and then Ricciardo, Alonso, Gasly 13th, Albon in the Williams is 14th, and Norris is 15th. And then in the drop zone, actually, let's see what Russell does with his lap. Goes 4th for George Russell there, ahead of Carlos Sainz. So very good lap there by the Brit. And really, his aim has to be 5th or better in this session. So Russell up to 4th. So let me just do the order here and get it correct. So it is Gasly 14th, Albon 15th, and in the drop zone at the minute with 10 minutes to go, Norris, Stroll, and then Latifi 18th, Schumacher 19th, and Bottas in 20th. Valtteri Bottas, though, hasn't done a proper fast run yet, as Pierre Gasly's on another lap, an improved lap. Let's see what he's doing for the middle sector. It is very good for the middle sector, only 0.6 of a second down. Loses the rear end slightly, though, on turn 16, exit of that corner, as Norris goes all the way up to 6th place now in the McLaren. And now Ocon goes 6th, and Alonso goes 7th. Pierre Gasly goes 7th now. Right, let me just quickly do that. So Alonso went 7th, and then Gasly went to P7. As here's Yuki Tsunoda we're looking at on board, as Carlos Sainz briefly did a purple first sector. And Tsunoda has done 2 personal bests on his lap so far. So we'll see what he does as he comes down the pit straight now. And there should be a 1:44 something. And it is. It's a 44.4. And it's actually slower than his personal best. As Carlos Sainz might go second with this lap. He's slightly up by almost 0.1 of a second on Verstappen after the first 2 sectors. But in this final sector is where Ferrari, compared to Red Bull, lose the time. I think Sainz is probably going to go second. Comes to the line. And yeah, just go second. So Red Bull gaining about a tenth of a second there on Ferrari in that final sector. Leclerc, though, has done a purple first sector, a personal best middle sector. Can he go quickest? He probably will just about. Comes to the line, and he does by 3/4 of a tenth, does Charles Leclerc. So Leclerc is into P1, Verstappen second, Sainz third, Perez fourth. Zhou Guanyu has just gone fifth for Alfa Romeo. That is very impressive. So Zhou fifth, Russell sixth. Is a replay of Russell behind Vettel, and Vettel caused a yellow flag there by looking up and going down the escape road at turn 3. Look, the outside front thankfully gets going again, as it looks as though this is a Red Bull of Sergio Perez on an improved lap, and so it is for Max Verstappen, who's done a purple first sector on his new lap. Perez is about to complete the middle sector. See what he does. But yeah, it's Zhou 5th, Russell 6th, and then Ocon, Gasly, Alonso, Norris, the rest of the top 10. And then Vettel, Tsunoda, Ricciardo 13th, and then Hamilton, Magnussen. And then in the drop zone right now, with 7 minutes left, it is Albon, Bottas, Latifi, Stroll and Schumacher. Very surprised that Stroll is so far low down, because he was pretty competitive in practice 3. As Sergio Perez goes fastest by a tenth of a second to a 1:42.7. Max, though, I'm pretty sure is going to go quicker. So Red Bull, by the looks of it so far in qualifying, have the advantage. Let's see as Verstappen comes to the line. And where does he go? He does go quickest by 0.011 of a second. So Max Verstappen leads from Perez, and Ferrari about a tenth and a half to 2/10 of a second behind. And then Zhou in 5th, a second behind in the Alfa Romeo. I know it's a big gap, but, you know, with it being a longer lap here, you do tend to get that in Baku. The longer the lap, the bigger the gaps. As Gasly is on possibly an improved lap. He's done a personal best first sector. He's in 8th place currently. But he's not done a personal best middle sector. Let's see what he does. He comes to the line, DRS wide open. Does he go any quicker? Probably not. No, about 2/10 of a second almost. Slower than his personal best. But AlphaTauri, 8th and 12th for the moment, so they're looking pretty decent for a Q2 with both cars. And, well, big surprise on, and they're showing him now on the TV broadcast, big surprise on it. Alfa Romeo, Zhou Guanyu, 5th for Alfa Romeo. Meanwhile, Valtteri Bottas is 1.2 seconds slower in 17th place. Either Alfa Romeo do have good pace, or Zhou has either pulled out an amazing lap, or Bottas, is, done a terrible lap so far. I don't know what's happened there, but quite a bit different from what I expected, put it that way, for Alfa Romeo, as Lewis Hamilton is on an improved lap. He's about to complete Sector 2, and his second sector is the best he really could hope for. 3/4 of a second behind Verstappen after the first 2 sectors. So this will probably put him at worst in 7th place. He's currently 14th, needs an improved lap if he's going to get into Q2. Can't believe I'm saying such a thing. And he comes to the line, Lewis Hamilton, and only goes 8th, has a poor final sector compared to his previous best. Most likely down to not having a toe that he might have had previously, as Lance Stroll reverses there at turn 8. Thankfully, not right into Russell. Could have been a bit dangerous there from Stroll, but I think he may have gone into the barriers there at turn... was it turn 8 or turn 7? Here we go. Stroll And yeah, just completely, and yeah, he did, went into the Tech Pro. So the front wing is probably damaged on that car. The problem is, though, they've got to do a front wing change, surely, and just send him straight back out because he's in 19th, is Stroll. So he can't afford to come back into the pits for any more than a half a minute. As here is Daniel Ricciardo we're looking at, who is on one of his final laps here in Q1. He is slower than Norris so far in this session, but he's only 0.2 of a second exactly slower. So that's pretty much what you would expect, given Norris, we know, is the quicker and better driver. As Sebastian Vettel does an improved time and goes 5th for Aston Martin. So good improvement there. And who's had a big crash? Is that Stroll? It is Lance Stroll. Did he not replace his front wing? And that's a red flag. So red flags are out. Let me just get rid of the timer. And they will be able to get the session going again, and people will be able to do another lap. But Lance Stroll, for the second year in a row, has crashed in Q1 and is out in Q1. Last year started from the back and, of course, had a puncture in the race. It looks as though he's met his end on the exit of turn 2. And if he's not pitted for a new front wing and that front wing has given way, then I'm sorry, that's the team's fault there. Let's see what happened. Here's a replay. And Stroll into turn 1. Flips the curb there slightly. And then into turn 2. Just understeers wide. Either the front wing was damaged from his little tap at turn 7 and caused that understeer, or just he went too deep into the corner. You'd have to say Stroll's fault. And again, second year in a row, he's made a big error and cost the team massively there, because really they should have been getting both cars into Q2. And now it looks like they're only get one, because Sebastian Vettel went 5th and is only half a second down on the front runners. But let me just put on screen that we have a red flag. So red flag. There you go. And the session is not over yet because we have 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go. It's a 1 minute 42 to 1 minute 44 lap. So as long as they can do an outlap of about 2 minutes 15, then they can get one more lap in. So it's not over yet, guys. And with, like I said, 2.5 minutes exactly to go until the end of Q1. Needing to get out the drop zone is Albon, Bottas, Latifi, obviously Stroll is out, and Schumacher in 20th. Those are the drivers that are in the drop zone. And the drivers at risk are probably from Norris down to Magnussen. Norris in 12th down to Magnussen, because Alonso in 11th is 6/10 quicker than Albon in 16th. So I don't think Alonso is at massive risk there. So really, the two McLarens of Norris and Ricciardo, Tsunoda and Magnussen are the ones at risk from 12th to 15th. And it would be a tremendous job for Alex Albon if he was to get into Q2. He's less than 1/10 of a second away from it. So we'll see if he can do it. And to be honest, I hope he can, because he, he's had a good season and he's really working hard in that car. As Lance Stroll's Aston Martin is just being put on the back of a truck. Hopefully they don't do what they did in 2019, which is crash into a bridge. Because that will, delay the session even more. And remember, local time in Baku, it's 25 to 7 at night. So, don't want to be having too many red flags, because it will get pretty dark towards the end. And plus, the cloud cover has started to come around here in Baku, so it will get darker quicker. Obviously, with the clouds about. But yeah, that was just Stroll. Either he did have some damage to his front wing, which caused some understeer, or he just pushed too hard into the corner. But to be honest, he, made the mistake of possibly damaging his front wing at turn 7. So it's all his fault, and his qualifying woes continue for Lance Stroll. And yeah, we should. And it's right, so it says the session will resume in 4 minutes' time. So there you go, 4 minutes' time, the session will resume. And like I said, in the drop zone, the two Williamses, Bottas and the Alfa Romeo, and Schumacher and the Haas, the only ones who can get out. As we've got now loads of cars queuing up on the exit of the pit lane already. Because like I said, people want to make sure they get out there and get a good lap in. Because, those drivers in the drop zone especially, they still have time to get a lap. Just like I said, if they can do a 2-minute 15, 2-minute 20 out lap, then that should be good enough for a what do you call it? To start a final lap. But I will sync, when they get going again, I will sync the timer up at 2 minutes. So I'll get that back on screen in a moment. As the Alfa Romeos and Haas's can't quite get into the fast lane because they are blocked off by a lot of drivers. I tell you, Mick Schumacher, especially in this session, he needs to get out Q1, or at least do a few positions better than 20th. Because if he qualifies last, then the pressure is going to really start ramping up after what happened in Monaco. So, yeah, we need to see him show some improvement there. As we are about... let me check. Yeah, we're still a couple minutes away from Q1 resuming. We're looking at Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo there. And yeah, the two McLarens definitely at risk of being knocked out here. As they're just trying to cool the Alfa Romeo cars there whilst it's still in the slower lane, which I think they're allowed to do. And then we're just seeing Stroll walking back to the pits. By the way, the air temperature is 24 degrees Celsius, track temperature 34 degrees Celsius, still pretty hot, but dropping all the time. And the wind, not really that big of a factor today. It's 5 kilometers an hour, so it's there, but it's not a factor like it was yesterday. And thankfully for Stroll, won't be that long of a walk back, because I think there's a bridge, isn't there, just over the exit of turn 1. It will take him straight back into the paddock, so we'll be back in the paddock in about 10 minutes. As hopefully, between this Haas and AlphaTauri, there's no shenanigans. Because it could be a collision if, one tries to bolt out of the box. And I think now the session is going to resume, because it's now 15:40 my time and 18:40 local time. Nope, session still hasn't resumed. I don't know why. I've noticed this with the FIA. When they say 1840, they don't mean as soon as it turns 1840. They mean like halfway through 1840. Like, just start it on 1840 as soon as it goes to that, for fuck's sake. I don't get the difference. But yeah, the Ferraris and Red Bulls are in the pits at the minute, and I think they'll stay in the pits. Sebastian Vettel doesn't necessarily need to come out again because he's only half a second off the front-running pace, and he's 1.4 seconds ahead of Albon, who is the quickest man in the drop zone. So I think Vettel will be fine. And now it's 1841, and we're still not going. No point having a, session will restart at this time if it's not going to restart. And there you go, green light, finally. So the two Mercedes are the first out of the pits. Really, they don't need to be holding anyone up because I think they're pretty safe. So I'll sync the timer up in about 5 seconds. And there you go. So 2 minutes to go in Q1. Alfa Romeo and Haas, yeah, I can already see it. Then they're already stuck in traffic. They need to get their way through here because they're gonna. I mean, they've already lost because of being stuck further back in the pack. They've already lost 20 seconds. So, yeah, I think honestly this might be a bit of a struggle for them to get through. As I think that's Mick Schumacher who's trying to find his way past the traffic, but I don't think he can do it. It's basically just one long traffic jam from Alpine car there of what is Alonso all the way back to the two Haases. Hamilton, Russell, and I think the two AlphaTauris are, in clear air. But I think Mick Schumacher might be able to start his lap, but it's going to be tough because he'll have to wait a few seconds at least to give himself some room as he's trying to closely follow the McLaren here to try and probably pass. So there's 40 seconds to go. The run from the final sector point until the start-finish line is 24 seconds. So Mick here, yeah, Mick's got to get on with it. So he's overtook one McLaren. Now he's got to overtake the other one. And well, with the strength and speed of the Haas, he should be able to pass Norris. But F1's now going side by side down to the start-finish line. Can the Haas make it? 7, 6. Yeah, the Haas, they all will make it. As the McLaren tries to have a go back, and well, it's just an absolute mess because Mick's not going to improve on his lap now because he's got loads of traffic ahead of him. So what an absolute mess. I mean, they had to try, but still an absolute mess there. As Lewis Hamilton in 9th place is on an improved lap. But, no, he's not on an improved lap, but he's on another lap, put it that way. And he's not got any traffic ahead of him, so he can improve, realistically. Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly have done a personal best first sector in 10th and 13th. As Hamilton now down to turn 15. And Hamilton, let's see what his middle sector looks like. It's almost 7/10 off Verstappen, so this'll probably gain him a position, maybe 2 positions. As Lewis Hamilton, yellow flag in sector 2, don't know what that's for. Hopefully nothing too bad. As Lewis Hamilton comes to the line, and Hamilton improves his time but stays in 9th. George Russell goes 6th. Yuki Tsunoda now goes up to P6. Pierre Gasly now goes 5th for AlphaTauri. Here's Bottas. Bottas goes 15th. So Bottas out of the drop zone. Can the others improve? Magnussen's not going to improve. Neither is Mick Schumacher. So Bottas, yeah, and the Williams comes in of Latifi and Albon. So Valtteri Bottas somehow improved his time and is through to Q2. So great job there by Valtteri Bottas. So Q1, guys, is over, and here is your final order. So into Q2 is Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Sainz, Gasly, Vettel, Tsunoda, Russell, Zhou, Ocon, Hamilton, and then Alonso, Norris, Ricciardo, and Bottas. And knocked out in Q1, Kevin Magnussen, Alex Albon, Nicholas Latifi, Lance Stroll, and Mick Schumacher. Very poor session for Mick Schumacher, I've got to say. 1.2 seconds slower than the person he needed to be quicker than to get into Q2, and over a second slower than Magnussen. I know he missed practice 1, but that's not an excuse. That is not an excuse. But yeah, there you go. So we'll get ready for Q2, and we'll see what happens in that. Hopefully no craziness like that again. But Q2, of course, is a 15 minute long session. So yeah, that'll be underway probably in about 3 to 4 minutes time. I'm just gonna what do you call it? Check Twitter to see if there's any news quickly in regards to obviously what's going on. Apparently, this is not really F1 news, but apparently Ferrari has held informal discussions with Fernando Alonso's team regarding Fernando driving for Ferrari in the Le Mans 24-hour race in 2023, according to, well, Ferrari News Twitter account. So maybe that's, you know, complete rubbish. But yeah, that is interesting. Also, Helmut Marko has told Sky Germany that Red Bull are alternating regarding the tow. For this weekend, Checo is providing the tow for Max first. So, I think they alternate it every weekend, don't they? Because they did it with Max and Ricciardo back in the day. So, you know, one weekend it'll be Max who goes out first to provide a tow, and then other way round for the second run, and there's, you know, vice versa. I think you guys can make up or make out the rest. But yeah, no other news from what I can see. I've seen, though, let me actually quickly show this on the screen. Well, actually, I won't be able to show the clip because I'll get copyright struck. But let me quickly show this on screen. So this tweet here, I mean, he's quote tweeting a clip of, it's a visor cam video of, I think, Carlos Sainz or Charles Leclerc of them porpoising in that final sector, and makes the point that, you know, the FIA needs to step in and consider the health impact on the drivers, and points out that there are many studies into damage of micro concussions in the NFL. Yeah, that is a good point, that I think the FIA need to, I mean, maybe at the start of the season they probably thought that, you know, the teams would solve those issues and, you know, it wouldn't happen anymore. But if this keeps happening on a regular basis, then we've got to ask the question of, You know, how is this affecting the health of the drivers? Because it's not just about, you know, concussions possibly and micro concussions. What about back injuries or, you know, slipping a disc or, you know, something that could be put out physically from this? To be honest, though, I'm not sure how do you stop it, because these cars are ground effect cars, and that happens with these cars. The only way you're going to stop it is by basically just changing the regulations again to a completely different formula. So I don't know how you fix it, unless you compel the teams to have fixed it before they can run on track. But yeah. KH says, seems McLaren just don't have the pace here. Maybe Chaz can explain better. Yeah, the reason McLaren don't have the pace is because they don't have the straight line speed in that final sector. If they had the straight line speed of you know, a Red Bull team, they'd probably be easily the third fastest team here, but they're losing a lot of time in the final sector, so yeah, there's absolutely no chance they're going to be, you know, as competitive as they were in Monaco. But Q2 has begun. I just need to sync the timer up for 14 minutes, which I'll do in about 20 seconds time. Yeah, Q2 is underway, and I'll do the dotted line in a minute as well. And we've got F1 on track. Probably most cars, or at least half the cars on track at the moment. And there you go. Timer on screen now. 14 minutes to go in Q2. Yeah, let me just get the... hold on. Let me just get that dotted line ready to help you guys obviously be able to see where the cutoff point is. And it obviously here, and do it. There you go. So anyone at the end of Q2 in between those two dotted lines. So at the moment it says Hamilton, Alonso, Norris, Ricciardo, Bottas. That would be a headline 5 drivers to be knocked out. But if that was the case at the end of the session, obviously, or the end of Q2, then those drivers would be knocked out in those positions and have to start the race from those positions. As Sergio Perez, by the way, has started his first lap in Q2. The best times from the top teams in Q1 were, 142.7, 142.6-ish. So we'll see what Perez can do for his first run. Normally, the first run in Q2 is a lot quicker than what we see from Q1 normally. So we'll see what happens here. Obviously, purple first sector for Perez. Now down to turn 7. Now into the castle section. Perez has gone quicker, by the way, than Max Verstappen in the first sector on this lap so far. And looking pretty good there, Perez, through the castle section. Now down to turn 15. And Perez, yeah, gets through turn 15 absolutely perfectly and does a 17.1, 1 minute 17.1 after 2 sectors so far. Verstappen, slightly quicker in the middle sector alone, but for the overall lap, he's slightly slower. So it's very close between the two Red Bull drivers. And now we'll see, as they come to the line, whether Sergio Perez can get ahead of Verstappen, and Perez does go quickest on a 1:42.2. Max Verstappen goes just about quicker by 0.03 of a second on a 1:42.2. That is quite a bit quicker than Q1, about half a second quicker. As Pierre Gasly comes to the line, goes third on a 43.1, which is a pretty good lap time for Gasly. Esteban Ocon goes 4th on a I think, a 43.5. Vettel goes now 4th on a 43.3. Tsunoda goes 5th on a 43.3. And then it's Daniel Ricciardo has just gone up to P7. Lando Norris has gone 6th. Fernando Alonso now 5th. Let me just update all of this. A decent laps there for McLaren to start with, as the 2 Mercedes have set their laps and the 2 Ferraris about to set their laps. Carlos Sainz has done a purple first sector. So good. Good pace so far. And Carlos Sainz comes to the line and goes quickest by a 10th, almost a 10th and a half over Verstappen. And Charles Leclerc will now come to the line and only go 2nd. So Carlos Sainz, a 10th of a second quicker than Leclerc. So it is Sainz in 1st position. And then Charles Leclerc 2nd. And like I said, about a 10th of a second down on his teammate. And then Verstappen 3rd. Perez 4th. Gasly 5th. Gasly a 2nd down on the leader. Russell is 6th for Mercedes. And then it is... Oh, no, they've hidden it. So I don't know what the order is right now. We'll do it in a moment. Here's a replay of Leclerc at turn 16. Losing the rear end a bit. That's probably why he finished 2nd. Yeah, it is. That's famously where Kimi Räikkönen blew what was a certain pole position in 2018. And he's done it right there as Leclerc. But Sainz, Leclerc, Verstappen, Perez, Gasly, Russell, Vettel 7th, Alonso 8th, Tsunoda 9th, and Norris 10th. That's your top 10 right now. The 2 Alfa Romeos, by the way, are 14th and 15th. They've not come out on track yet. But in the drop zone, and the drivers that have set a time so far, Lewis Hamilton in 11th. How surprising that would be if he was in knocked out in Q2. Esteban Ocon in 12th. That's also a bit of a surprise. And then Daniel Ricciardo 13th. And like I said, Zhou and Bottas have not done a time yet. So we'll see what they do when they come out. But yeah, that is the runners and riders so far in Q2. But we've still got 8 minutes to go. As we're looking at Max Verstappen, who looks like he is on a slowdown lap. Maybe he's going to go for another lap, I don't know. As this is an AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly, who's on another time lap. He's not done a personal best first sector, though. Middle sector, no, he's miles down. He may as well come into the pits because he's not going to go any quicker. Going to be about half a second slower than his personal best by the time he comes to the line. If he does decide to complete his lap. By the way, Lewis Hamilton is only missing out on Q3 at the moment by 0.02 of a second. That's how close it is, despite being such a long lap. Sebastian Vettel, though, in 7th currently, is on an improved lap. And no! Oh, we thank God for that. He locked up into turn 15. If he kept turning in, he would have wiped his front corner off his car. Thankfully, went straight into the barriers. Not that fast, so he shouldn't have broken his suspension, but he definitely would have broken his front wing, and I think he has. Well, he has to come back in now, surely, and replace that front wing. I was about to say with Sebastian, what a weekend he's having, considering Aston Martin, still don't have that quick of a car. But, yeah, mistake there from Sebastian. F1 makes mistakes there, so not the worst mistake in the world. And yeah, locked up the outside front, then the inside front, and then ended up locking up both tyres, and thankfully went straight in, softly, into the barriers, rather than trying to turning. So if he did, he would have wiped the front right tyre and suspension off his car, and would have been out of qualifying. But at the moment, Sebastian is in 7th place. That would be, if he was to get into the top 10, a fantastic result. I mean, Aston Martin have looked decent this weekend, but they definitely have not looked that good. So that would be an amazing result if Sebastian was to get it. But it's very close between him and Hamilton in 11th with those drivers on time. Less than a tenth, I think, covering those drivers. As Sergio Perez is on an improved time, he's done a purple middle sector. And we know in this final sector, the Red Bull is the quicker car. So Perez should go into first position with this lap as Perez now heads down the pit straight. DRS wide open. Perez goes, quickest by a tenth of a second. So Sergio Perez still showing some brilliant pace in the Red Bull. And the Red Bull, they're gaining about, by the looks of it, so far in qualifying, the Red Bull is gaining about a tenth of a second in that final sector, which is a great margin to have. Let me just update this picture a bit better. There you go. And Perez got very close to the wall on the exit turn 15, but yeah, brilliant lap there from Perez, despite not doing a purple first sector. One man, though, that has done a purple first sector is Charles Leclerc, who's now coming into the castle section. And looks very good through there. Obviously, the Ferrari at its best in Sector 2. And the Ferrari now heads down to turn 15. And yeah, it looks very smooth, very comfortable. What's he doing for the middle sector? It's actually slower for the middle sector than his personal best. And he's 0.06 of a second slower than Perez. So he's probably not going to improve his position here. Will probably stay in third. I doubt he'll go quickest. As Bottas and Zhou, by the way, are on lap times now. But they're both going pretty slow, I have to say. And note, Leclerc does improve his position and lap time. But he goes second. Just under a tenth of a second away from Perez. Here are the two Alfa Romeos. Probably unrealistic to expect them to get into the top 10, but better than 14th and 15th would be good. And Bottas, only 14th. Zhou then replaces him in 14th. So yeah, it looks as though that's the best they can do. Alfa Romeo just don't have the pace this weekend. So that's going to be them done for the day. Now we're looking at, with 3 minutes to go, Norris and Ricciardo. Ricciardo in the drop zone at the moment. Ricciardo on pace is not that, he's not doing that bad, but probably should improve his position by at least one. As he's, at the minute on his lap so far, only slightly slower than Norris. But Norris is on an improved lap, so we'll see what happens here. As Lando Norris comes to the line, where will he go? And stays in 10th, but improves his lap time. Daniel Ricciardo improves his lap time, but stays in 13th. He's, 0.2 of a second away, Ricciardo. That's not that bad, to be honest. Norris is faster in qualifying and is a faster driver. I think we all know that. So that's not that bad, to be honest. McLaren just aren't that quick. As Leclerc there, maybe the reason why he went slower in the middle sector there, touched the wall on the entry to turn 7. Yeah, slightly clipped it, but got away with it. And Verstappen, they're showing a replay of him, and he clipping the exit wall of turn 7. I remember, I think, was it Danny Fiat? I think in practice a couple years ago. Crashed there. You don't normally see crashes there. But, yeah. But the top 4 now in the pits. They don't need to go again because they're way ahead of the rest of the pack. As George Russell and Lewis Hamilton are both on improved laps. Yellow flag in Sector 1. Probably someone going down the escape road, I'd imagine. At turn 3 or something. Russell has not improved his first sector, but Lewis Hamilton has. And Russell, not improving for this lap. And the green flag's now come out in Sector 1. Lewis Hamilton, he's improving his lap, but it's not at the minute good enough to get him into Q3. But we know the Mercedes is faster in the final sector than the McLaren. So if Hamilton can have a good final sector and get a good toe off Russell, then Lewis will probably get into Q3. Russell doesn't improve. Lewis Hamilton does improve up to 6th. Job done by Russell to provide the toe. So Lewis Hamilton up to 6th there. Sebastian Vettel down to 8th, but he's on an improved lap. And he goes 7th, and that should see him into Q3. Only, 15 seconds to go. Here comes a McLaren. And I don't know if he's starting a lap or finishing one. Looks as though he's starting one. Here's a replay. This is probably what the yellow flag was for. Yeah, it was Tsunoda into turn 2, locks up the inside front and then touches the wall on the right-hand side and then hits the wall as Norris went down the escape road, I think, trying to get out of the way of the Aston Martin, which was a smart decision. Yeah, this McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo is on an improved lap. He's done a personal best first sector. If Norris is still out there, which he is, then, Norris needs to try and improve himself. But if he can't, then he needs to try and provide a tow to his teammate. Because Ricciardo is on a decent lap here. As Daniel, through turn 12, pushing as hard as possible. This is a good lap from Ricciardo. No, Norris is behind Ricciardo. That's going to hurt Ricciardo a bit when it comes to a slipstream. To turn 15. Ricciardo, very nice through there. What's his middle sector time looking like? Oh, he's so close. 0.005 of a second behind Tsunoda. And we know the McLaren is slower in a straight line than the AlphaTauri. It's going to take a miracle, I think, to get him into Q3. Norris, though, is up on his time that he needs to be to get... he's up on Tsunoda, but I think he's not done a personal best sector, so I'm not sure he'll be able to do enough. Ricciardo only goes 12th, so he's out. What can Norris do? Norris has backed off. I'm pretty sure he has. Yeah, he has. So the two McLarens are out in 11th and 12th. Esteban Ocon out in 13th. That is a surprise. Alpine, I thought, were quicker than that. And then Zhou and Bottas. So, Q2's over. And into the shootout of Q3. Perez, Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen, Gasly, Hamilton, Vettel, Russell, Alonso, and Tsunoda. And knocked out in Q2, Norris, Ricciardo, Ocon, Zhou Guanyu, and Valtteri Bottas. And Q3 should be getting underway in a few moments' time. Let me know, guys, in the chat, who do you think's getting pole after what we've seen in Q1 and Q2? Because Red Bull look a bit quicker than I expected. And I'm going to change my opinion. I'm going to go for Sergio Perez to get pole here. Because I think Red Bull, they're a bit quicker and closer to Ferrari around the other parts of the lap. And then, in Sector 3, they're gaining that very important 10th of a second. Let me know in the chat what you think's going to happen. In terms of the fight for pole position quickly before Q3 gets underway, just want to say again, don't forget to join me later tonight at 8 PM UK time, which is in just under 4 hours from now, for my race preview for tomorrow's 2022 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And then I'll be live first time tomorrow at 11:30 AM UK time, 30 minutes before the race starts, for the race watch along for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And then about 45 minutes after the race finishes, I will be live for the race reaction stream. So don't forget to come along to that content. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. And as well, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. And as well, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5. And don't forget as well to join my Discord server. A link below in the description. But Q3 should be underway in a couple minutes. But in terms of the people knocked out in Q2, not a surprise, really, that McLaren weren't that quick. That final sector, they just lose so much speed because they are the slowest team probably in a straight line. Esteban Ocon, yeah, surprising how slow he was in the end there. And then with Alfa Romeo, not really surprising. They've been around 14th and 15th pretty much in every session this weekend. So that's not a surprise whatsoever. But yeah, in the top 10, obviously. It's Lewis Hamilton, by the way. It did pop up during the Q2 that Lewis Hamilton is under investigation for driving unnecessarily slowly. And here's a replay of it. No, that's not. That is not a. No. There is. I really hope they don't give a penalty for that, because Norris could have easily overtaken him. He wasn't driving unnecessarily slowly and blocking the track. Get out of here with that. That is not blocking. I really hope they don't give him a penalty for that, for Lewis Hamilton, because there was literally, the right-hand side of the track to overtake him. I mean, obviously, I know what they were trying to do. They wanted a slipstream, but don't complain about being blocked when you could easily overtake. But, yeah, into the top 10 and into Q3, obviously. The two big teams, not surprised there. Pierre Gasly looking very, very good. Hopefully can deliver in Q3. Remember, he qualified 4th here last year and obviously finished on the podium. Good job by Lewis Hamilton to get into Q3, and also nice one by Russell to give him a tow. And yeah, Sebastian Vettel, great driving again. That man has been fantastic this season. Been one of the best, definitely one of the top 10 drivers of the season so far as Sebastian Vettel. And also good to see Alonso in there. Shout out Tsunoda, another Q3 appearance, and also George Russell in there, but that's not really a surprise at this point, is it? Given how he's done in the last, this season. We're just waiting for Q3 to get underway. And that'll be getting underway in a couple minutes' time, as everyone is just waiting. And Q3 says we'll start. Q3 is probably going to start in about 30 seconds' time, knowing the FIA, because it's already the time they said it was going to start at, but it's still a red light at the end of the pit lane, and Fernando Alonso already waiting to get out on track. So maybe Fernando's going to do a couple laps extra in terms of time lapse. But the Ferraris and Red Bulls still in the garage, and so are the Mercedes cars. And yeah, Q3 should have begun by now, but it still hasn't. As looks as though AlphaTauri are about to send out their two drivers. Very good for AlphaTauri that they can get both cars into Q3. Does feel like since Barcelona they've really started to improve that car. I know Barcelona was a poor race, even though I think they scored a point still with Tsunoda. But Monaco, they were a lot quicker than the result showed. They really should have got a strong result with Gasly had it not been for the miscommunication and mishandling of his qualifying last weekend. As Q3 has begun, I'll sync the timer up in about 45 seconds. Gasly deserved a few points from Monaco. And obviously here, double Q3 appearance. So AlphaTauri do seem as though they're getting a bit more back to what we saw last year. As Alonso and then an AlphaTauri. I think it's the second car on track. Now you got the two Mercedes and then another AlphaTauri. As here comes the two Ferraris and probably the two Red Bulls in a moment as well. But in about 10 seconds, I'll put the timer on screen so you guys know how long is left. And yet the two Ferraris come out. and the Red Bulls follow them. So there you go. 11 minutes to go. And the battle for pole is between who we expected it to be. No surprises yet. But looking probably a bit closer between the front four than I expected. I didn't really think Carlos Sainz would be in the fight, in this session. So, yeah, looking good there for Carlos Sainz. And the Red Bulls, I think, are going to be the last ones to start their first lap. So, they will benefit from other people's slipstream probably as well. As the Red Bull here of Sergio Perez actually trying there to overtake Charles Leclerc on this outlap, which hopefully is no shenanigans. I'm sure they can get through just fine. And yeah, Perez now backing off. Obviously, Perez, for the first run, has to give Max the tow, and then I think it's the other way round for the second lap. And, well, people may disagree with, giving your teammates a tow, but it makes complete sense around a track like this because you can gain literally up to half a second with a good tow. So it makes, like I said, complete sense to do it. As Gasly, Hamilton, Russell, Alonso, Tsunoda have already started their laps. And now Perez, Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen will start their laps as well. And Sebastian Vettel, I don't know if he's on track at the moment. Maybe he's only got one set of tyres left. We'll have to see. But we're currently looking at Carlos Sainz on his first timed run here in Q3. Let's see what he can do. Can he, actually feature in the fight for pole position today? I doubt it, but hopefully he can prove me wrong and not do what he did last year, which is crash at turn 3. Thankfully, he's made it through turn 3. Obviously, the Ferrari car handling a lot better than it was last year. As Sainz, there's a 35.7 for the first sector. Let's see what Leclerc's first sector is like. Leclerc's first sector is a 35.7 as well, but just slightly quicker by about a hundredth or so over Sainz. So very close between the two Ferrari drivers so far. As I think Fernando Alonso has just finished his first timed lap, and Gasly has actually gone quicker than Alonso. Don't know how much quicker. Actually, quite a bit quicker. Very impressive time from Gasly, a 42.8. As Sainz does a purple middle sector. We'll see in a moment what Leclerc's middle sector is like. It is also purple, so Leclerc definitely quicker than Sainz. Not a big surprise there. But Sainz now completes his lap with this run to the line, and he will go quickest for now on a 1:41.8. That is a very quick lap time from Ferrari. Like I said, I thought pole would be in the 1:41s, and Leclerc goes second. He lost time in that final sector. Did he have a poor run again out of the final corner? Perez only goes third. Max Verstappen only goes fourth, so Red Bull cannot capitalise on it, even though they went quicker than they did in Q2. So Carlos Sainz is first, and on provisional pole position for the moment is Carlos Sainz. Leclerc is second. Sergio Perez is third. Max Verstappen is fourth. As that's a replay of Leclerc on the exit of turn 12. I think clipping the barriers, isn't it? Very close. Lost the rear end of it, but he still did a purple middle sector, so it wasn't that sector that cost him necessarily, or that mistake. But yeah, it's with one run to go, most likely in Q3. Carlos Sainz on provisional pole position. Charles Leclerc second. Perez third. Verstappen fourth. Gasly is fifth. And then it's Russell in sixth place. Sebastian Vettel has gone 7th ahead of Lewis Hamilton. What a lap by Vettel. He's not too far behind the 2 ahead of him. So Vettel could, you never know, get a top 6 here. And he's actually 0.3 of a second quicker than Lewis Hamilton. Brilliant job by Sebastian. So Vettel in 7th, Hamilton 8th, Alonso 9th, and then Tsunoda is 10th. Here's a replay of Perez on the inside. He actually hit the barriers on the inside of turn 5. Did that cause some damage to that tyre, I wonder? As also losing the rear end there on the exit of turn 1. Don't know who that was. I think that might be Perez who did that. So Red Bull definitely could go quicker then. So only couple tenths of a second separate the front 4. And like I said, at the moment, it might be a Ferrari front row. But Red Bull, I think, can definitely improve on what they have done so far as we enter the final 5 minutes of qualifying. Carlos Sainz, remember, has never had pole position in his career. And considering how quick the Ferrari car is this season, I'm pretty sure he is desperate to get a pole and his first win. We'll see if he can do that. As here's a replay of Lewis Hamilton. The car is bottoming a dangerous amount, he says. Well, this was a concern for me coming to Baku. That, with how long the straight is, that the bottoming would be, or the porpoising would be quite bad. And it seems to be quite bad. And Mercedes, we know, they still have the porpoising to a certain degree. It's not as bad as we saw earlier in the season, but they do still have it. And I think the Mercedes car just on bumpier tracks is a worse car than it is on a smoother racetrack. So not really a surprise that Mercedes are struggling with that as they battle to somehow get the 3rd row of the grid. It doesn't look as though they're going to do it. So still tough days for the Silver Arrows as the 2 Ferraris are on an outlap. And so is the 2 Mercedes, the 2 AlphaTauris, Fernando Alonso in the Alpine, and now the 2 Red Bulls as well. Sebastian Vettel is on track. I think Vettel is on a timed run. And I think Vettel is actually about to cross the line with one of his final laps. Let's see. As Vettel comes to the line, unless Vettel's coming back into the pits. And does Vettel go any quicker? Oh no, some problems there at Red Bull. Getting Sergio Perez out. Don't know what that was. And he comes out just ahead of Sebastian Vettel, who I think has come back into the pits. Maybe he tried to do another lap, but couldn't improve. So Perez, by the way, will be fine. He'll be able to get a final lap in. So we'll see what he can do if he does have a decent outlap. If there was any trouble there getting his car back out, then I'm sure we'll see what the exact issue was later. As this Ferrari of, don't know who it is, it's too fast. I think it is Carlos Sainz, the current provisional pole position man. Can he, with 2 minutes to go in qualifying, get his first ever pole position? Let's see if he can. Very good turn 1. As close to the barriers as you want. Into turn 2. Oh, I think he might have touched the wall at the exit of turn 2. That was very, very leery. And I think the Mercedes, or one of the cars in the background, also losing the rear end a bit. That was very scruffy from Carlos Sainz. And losing the rear end, I think, slightly again in turn 3. Maybe pushing a bit too hard here. God, he's getting close to the wall. This could end in disaster. Sainz, and yeah, for the first sector, he has blown it. Almost half a second slower than his personal best. So Carlos Sainz, he's done in terms of being able to improve his best lap. Leclerc, though, has done a purple first sector. A tenth of a second quicker than Sainz. That's precisely what he needs. Max Verstappen, we'll see what he does for the first sector in a second. Here he comes. Verstappen, a better first sector for him, but still half a tenth slower than Carlos Sainz. As Alonso does his final lap and goes 8th for Alpine. A decent effort from Fernando, as Alpine don't seem to be as quick as I thought they would be. Here comes though Leclerc down to the second sector point. Can he do a purple middle sector? Yes, he can. What a middle sector. Half a second quicker than Carlos Sainz. This is going to be a mega lap from Leclerc unless the Red Bulls can respond in the middle sector. Perez, by the way, has just done his first sector, and it's pretty good, but not as good as the Monegascan. Verstappen has not done a personal best. Middle sector as Leclerc comes to the line, surely to get pole, and he does by 4.5 tenths of a second. What a brilliant job by Leclerc. 141.3. One of the best laps of his entire career. Here comes Max Verstappen as Russell goes 5th. Verstappen goes 2nd with a purple final sector. And 3.5 tenths down he was. Let's see if Perez can stop Leclerc here. He's 3.5 tenths off in the middle sector, so unless the Red Bull is an absolute rocket in the final sector, I don't think he's going to get pole here. But he could get 2nd. Of course, he's in the championship fight as well. It's very important that Perez gets a good position, as Perez now is running to the line. Where will he finish up? It is 2nd place ahead of Max Verstappen. 2 races in a row. He out-qualifies Max Verstappen, but it is Charles Leclerc on pole by 3 tenths of a second. A brilliant lap by Leclerc, the perfect lap from Leclerc, and that is his 4th pole position in a row and his 6th pole position out of 8 races this season. He is the qualifying man in 2022. And definitely, compared to Verstappen and Perez, Leclerc easily the man to beat over a single lap. So, Q3 has ended, and it's Leclerc on pole, Perez 2nd, Verstappen 3rd, Carlos Sainz 4th, Russell finishes 5th, Gasly finishes 6th, Hamilton finishes 7th, and then it's Tsunoda 8th. That's a good job by AlphaTauri, who look as though they're the 4th best team here. As here's a replay of Sainz exit of turn 2, and yet he understeered slightly too wide and then tried to apply the throttle a bit too aggressively. And was just too wide to be able to be that aggressive with it. Disappointing for Sainz. He went from 1st down to 4th and now faces a very tough race if he's going to contend for victory, if he does have the pace to do so. Here's also Perez on the exit turn 2. Not quite as bad as Sainz, but yeah, definitely cost him probably a tenth or so, that little mistake, but it wouldn't have put him on pole position. And yes, Tsunoda is 8th, and then you got Vettel 9th, Alonso 10th. So guys, qualifying is over, and this is your starting grid for tomorrow's Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc on pole position for the 2nd year in a row here, and like I said, for the 4th consecutive Grand Prix in 2022. Sergio Perez is 2nd, Max Verstappen 3rd, Carlos Sainz 4th, George Russell 5th, Pierre Gasly 6th, Lewis Hamilton 7th, Yuki Tsunoda 8th, Vettel 9th, and Alonso 10th. And then knockdown Q2, Norris 11th, Ricciardo 12th, Ocon 13th, Zhou Guanyu 14th, and Bottas 15th. By the way, forgot to mention, great job by Zhou to out-qualify Bottas at a track where Bottas is pretty good. So great job by him. And then knockdown Q1, Magnussen 16th, Albon 17th, Latifi 18th, Stroll 19th, and Mick Schumacher in 20th. So that is your starting grid for tomorrow's Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Guys, that's it for my stream and for the qualifying watch-along. Don't forget to join me in 3.5 hours from now for my race preview at 8 PM UK time. And as well, don't forget to join me tomorrow for the race watch-along, the main event of the weekend, of course, at 11:30 AM UK time, half an hour before the race begins in Baku. And as well for the race reaction stream just after the race finishes. It would be great to see you for that. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to sub, bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. And as well, don't forget to smash the like button, share this video and channel every way you can. And don't forget as well to follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5 and join my Discord server, link below in the description box. But guys, until my race preview later tonight, and until the next watch along, of course, the race watch along to see what happens in what could be a crazy Azerbaijan Grand Prix, it has been me, ChazHD. Goodbye.